Hey, yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, guys. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. We have Kermit Frog from Clan GFLC. He is getting a replay analysis here because he sent me a message, and it's one of the most common messages that I get. Hey, Guido, how could I have done better in this game? Specifically, I think he asked at the end of it. We're going to watch the game. We're going to talk about the whole thing, obviously. Playing scout tanks is a great way to learn the game. They're very difficult to play. They let you get around the map more. They let you use more of the map than most other tanks can. And if you can preserve your hit points and your vote to the mid to late game, especially late game, when there's less guns in the game, the things become more and more effective and more feared, because if you're that low hit point heavy or that heavy that's alone, the last thing you want to do is get outspotted by a light tank and pummeled either by Artie or other hidden tanks. So it can be very scary. It's very scary. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this. He has spawned into the west side on Malinovka, and he heads immediately for Da Bush. Now, something to talk about, and we're going to break this down from the very beginning to the very end. Notice he spawned on the very right side of the spawn point. But really nice if he'd spawned where the T50-2 was. I salivate when I get spawned there because I go straight for that bush. If I am over here all the way to the right, I feel like just maybe someone's going to outspot me and get to the positions before I can. The positions I'm talking about are going to be the counter-spotting bush here, or the same bush you have on their side, which is over in this area here, or up on this promontory, which is even worse. If somebody has spawned way on the right of the red team and can blitz straight to that bush, they can actually catch people getting late into the bush ahead here that Kermit's attempting to get into. Now, I'm completely foreshadowing. Of course, this guy then slows him down. That doesn't help either. Completely foreshadowing, but I just wanted to explain that from the very beginning, because your spawn point sometimes determines whether you're going to get to a spot, as does your approach. Now you see that he comes way wide left. If I'm going for that bush, I want to get there as soon as possible. I'm going to use as much of this low ground right along here as I can, and then I'm going to scoot right into that bush as fast as possible. He takes kind of a circuitous route here. Maybe worried about getting lit by these guys over here, but you'll notice they're right on the edge. They're right on the edge, so you're going to have to trust on your camo, and then all of a sudden he is spotted. We're going to find out by where. Comes down here, backs out. I would not have gone here because that opens you up to shots from that bush, which for me is probably the most likely spot that you get spotted. Possibly there's the bush right there in front of him. Possibly somebody's in there. However, either way you slice it, your cover's blown, and there's 2 artillery in this game. At this point, you're going to have to abandon ye all hope of entering the bush, okay? I would have left. It's time to go. Honestly, you're lucky a couple artillery didn't hit you. The reason they didn't, more than likely, is they're probably already glommed on down in the southwest, because there's a silly YOLO push going on over there with 2 lights and a bunch of people sitting at your cap and everything else. And we try to get up here, and that's entirely predictable. And that is where, in fact, the Type 64 is. He's in this bush up here, and he just shot you in the side with his little gold round, and now you're forced back out of that. You're unable to stay there. Frankly, you're lucky you didn't take any more damage. You kind of look up there and dare him to shoot you again. Then you go this way. I don't know why he didn't shoot you again, to be honest. He wasn't lit. He must have backed off and not been able to get back up in time. I'm not really sure. So that was definitely a mistake, and you got away with it. You got away with it. Probably should have lost more hit points doing that. I think the positioning idea was good. The approach was bad. Sticking around was bad as well. So then we bail out, and now I'm really not sure what we're doing. Okay, so I ask people this a lot when I do these reviews. All right, what's the plan? You weren't able to use the bush. You've got a big fight going on down here in the corner. Your guys are doing okay. You got a bunch of campers. Holy cow, your KV-2 is sitting behind a rock, behind a bush in the middle. Oh my goodness gracious. You got a 40 TP kind of doing the same thing. This is not a great setup for your team right here. But what's your plan? You're going to go scout for the Sturv and the 3045, the 01 and the TOG. What's happening here? So we made a move like we're going to go that way, and then we spin around and we head back to the back edge of the map. So it's going to take a while to travel, since it looks like you decided not to go help them down in the south. I don't think I would have either. Right now, that's kind of a sucker's bet. Those pushes across the south are not very useful. Problem is, especially if there's no pressure being put up on the north side here by the windmill, or coming down the backside, which clearly there's not going to be this early in the game, then everything that was headed this way can fold back and take out the few guys that made it to the corner. With 2 artillery some guys hiding behind buildings, maybe a couple guys back in here. This is a failed effort already. And the 40 TP didn't push, the AT8. I mean, it's just... There was a meta years and years ago where that actually worked. That it's been a long time gone. Long time gone. Now the 33002M has showed up. So now we're going to come in here and approaches matter once again. So we're going to watch it come here. There's the hot Tog. He's got the camo on. We slam the brakes on. We actually take a look. All right. Oi. What is the purpose of this other than to get spotted by guys and shot? This approach should have been right up behind this bush, right into this promontory. Stop. Cook out. You're carrying binoculars. Cook off the binoculars and pause for a second. And go, all right, did I catch anybody out? Somebody moving around down on the swamp maybe. Maybe catch something large out behind these bushes. Not likely, but sometimes you can. Or maybe they fire. Maybe they fire. Or someone's moving around in that little saddle right there in front of me. Perhaps I catch a light out in the middle here or something like that. But just driving up and then crossing this ridge and going, ha, shoot me, that was a bad idea. And then, holy cow, this really surprised me. At first I thought, oh, he's going to go down here, go through the swamp and try to spot there, which at this point is not a great idea either because you don't have a whole lot of support. I guess the Tog may eventually get there. But what we're actually doing is we're moving to the middle, and this whole time I'm cringing because I'm thinking, my God, we're going to get absolutely waylaid, but nothing's happening. It may be that the enemy team's kind of enamored of your Type 64 and T50-2, getting the hots for those two guys down in the southwest. But more than likely, look how many guns are left in the game. There's 12 on the enemy team. 10 that aren't arty at this point. Somebody's probably in this general area trying to go up the hill. So we come over here, and then we come up here, and then we take this weird angle. And then when we get to this bush, we completely forget that the Type 64 was in this bush. And instead of coming at an angle that we put this little small bush between us and him, the most likely guy to spot us, we just give him a nice sight line right here. Oops. Oh, that's no surprise, man. Look at this. Right here. Completely uncovered. And you knew a guy was in there. There's probably two guys in there, to be quite honest. If I was to guess, at least two sitting there. There was at least one, maybe two, possibly three. There's probably a couple guys in some of these ridge lines. There's probably some guys up along this road potentially who could come over and take a shot at you. Holy cow. We completely luck out, and wow, there was a guy looking, and it was a 240 Alpha ARL that happened to bounce. So very, very lucky. That's one thing about this tank that you probably know. It's got some pretty good armor. Then, as we're spotted, we back out, kind of sit there for a second, and then move forward, just begging the Hummel and the M44 to get shots on us. Again, the only reason I think you haven't been kind of hit by these guys more, or at least shot at, is there's such a fight going on down here in the south. Now, if your SA is such that you were thinking, yep, I'm going to be a little more aggressive because I think they're already as busy down the south, that's... I don't know if I'd believe you. If it's true, that's awesome. But I don't think I would have even been kind of challenging that either. So this guy's up here, shoot him. He's busy getting shot. You actually get spotted. I might have sat there for a couple more and just taken a couple more chances before he proved he was shooting at me. Okay, again, what's the plan? So we shoot this guy. We head back this way. And the thing about scouting, Kermit, is... The thing about scouting and running scouts is to not put yourself in any more danger than you need to. And this line was not good. I would have run away this way, potentially used this low saddle area. The danger here is maybe shots from that bush that we were just talking about. But I don't think I would have come this far north and then driven up this ramp out exposed with multiple guys up on the hill who have shots on me and potentially multiple guys back in these ridges. That's why this low area, even though it would expose myself to the Type 64 back there, would have minimized my exposure to all the rest of the threats out there. It looks like you're thinking about it maybe right there. And again, we sort of get away with it. We get a little spotting on the M6. And now we've got a kind of a decision time. We've got a 131. And again, what's the plan? What I'm seeing a lot out of you on this is a lot of just kind of driving around going, I'm spotting. And you're seeing guys, but you're out in the open. So what I want you to start thinking about is a little bit more careful movement between place to place. So if I was headed over here and I figured, holy cow, I got a problem coming up the hill, I wouldn't just drive out in the open and spot. I'd have folded down through that little low spot, come up through these trees, and got to the front tree where I wasn't spotted. One of these two bushes is a good spot. And then use my binocs to turn them on, because I got a bunch of shooters back here. Granted, 2 of them are artillery, but they're fast firing. I got the Sturv. I even got the 3045, who's in a terrible spot, and the KV85, and maybe even the TOG, although he's not really long for the game right there. As opposed to just drive out in the open, up a ramp where I'm completely exposed, and then swirl around on an open space, just daring a Tiger 131 and whoever else is up there, Cromwell and M6, to shoot me. And then this move. I've seen people use this usually a bit earlier in the game, although it's relatively early still based on how many tanks are still left. I've seen people use this, and this is another thing from a meta gone by that used to work quite well. But the problem with your move on this one is you're not really supported very well. They own the hill. This usually is good if you're contesting the hill and you want to start lighting guys up in this general area right here for shots from below or from above so they know what they're doing. Potentially very early on when they're coming up the hill for guys to get shots, but you're kind of spread all out. They own the hill. And this just ends up becoming very, very dangerous. And once again, the fact that you weren't dug out by the artillery is extremely lucky. The Churchill is sort of posted up here, and you see him. We're going to come up here. Little third-person / shift fire kind of thing. Little snapshot. I didn't even know you could go up that ramp, to be quite honest. I never used this spot. It's just so dangerous. This right here is completely exposed to that guy right there if you get spotted. I've shredded all kinds of dudes to sit up here when I'm sitting down on that hill down there. Potentially someone in this little rise or further down even, down towards the swamp. So it really is sweat by fire. Plus you already can get in here if you come out too far. Did somebody force the 64 out? It might have been you, I'm not sure. So that's useful. We've got a bit of an advantage. Tog's dead, isn't it? Yeah, Tog's dead. We come up here, we get proxy lit. And what's the purpose, right? So what's the purpose of proxy lighting the Churchill? He's really slow. He's way in the back. Your artillery appears to be busy shooting the guys up on top of the hill. The threat was these dudes right now. Now, he's eventually going to get there. But we're sort of messing around with him. But to what effect? What's the point? Really, there really is none right now. That guy is not doing much of anything. So you're harassing a guy that's not really in the game, and neither are you. Oh, there's the ARL. It takes a while to try to get a light on him. Looks like your guys down in the south actually have won, amazingly enough, and they're pushing in. So now you've got a good sandwich going on, but the threat's over here. Let's get rid of the M6, the Cromwell, the Tiger 131. Again, this Churchill will show up eventually, but this is a timing game. He's really out of the game for a long time, and the problem is you are as well. You haven't taken a really decent shot in minutes at this point. We've only got 100 damage and 619 assist. All right, there we go. Now we see these guys. Now it's time to just start unloading. I would absolutely prioritize the Cromwell. Maybe you're thinking the Tiger is a little slower. I would shift immediately over to Cromwell. Get rid of him first. You're going to pin the Cromwell almost no matter what, and he's only got 249 hit points. The gunnery, I'm not really sure. You might want to zoom in a little more. Oop, okay, Churchill sees us. Yeah, the M6 starting to look, so let's go ahead and dive down. And I just move in behind him. Getting missed by the Churchill. Fire on the move is fine, no worries. Keep on moving in. I would get up a little high right here. Maybe even go up on this little bump, potentially. And take shots on these guys in the back. If I could get a shot, maybe not. I may have to drive up right behind them, but just get in there and absolutely pummel these guys. You may take a hit or two from the Churchill, but we can gun down the M6 and the Cromwell pretty immediately right here if we just kind of go, ooh, and he's looking at us. Okay, auto aim and fire. Oh, no auto aim. Just need to right click, man. Little right click. I think I'd have kept going around the corner. Just haul ass around the corner and take him down because your 30-45's taking hits. Yep, and then he dies. See, this guy could have been dead. Now, I'm not sure if it would have saved him because that Churchill, actually it was the M44 that got him. The M44 is looking this way now, and the Churchill is fast firing. But he certainly didn't have a chance at the point which you allowed this guy to live so long. There we go. So we're going to turtle up. That's good. KV-85 is obviously getting shredded by the Churchill, but pretty soon that light will go away, hopefully. He gets artied, so he survives it. That's a good thing. And so now what's the plan, right? What's the plan? Let's see what you do. We're just going to drive back straight into the maws, potentially, of the Churchill. He could still be sitting up on that ridge. If he was, that's probably the end of you. He's going to get 2 or 3 shots off before you get away. So super lucky that he's not there. Maybe you just knew. I would have gone up the hill. I would have headed up the hill and seen if he was headed up there. And if he was, just spin around and run away. Or maybe circle jerk him to death, depending on his hit points. I think he's pretty high hit points. But what you're doing is you're looking for him. This I would not have done. I would have initially looked on the hill and seen if he was there. If he wasn't, maybe approach from here. But I wouldn't need to approach from here if I got up the hill. The thing about the hill is there's all kinds of bushes along the edge of it up here. I'll show you one that's fantastic, actually, for looking down into their 0 column. And I think it is right... Which one's this one? Right there. That bush is fantastic for looking down into their lower area there in their 0 column. So we kind of futz around coming up in here. We don't, okay. Thank goodness that Churchill wasn't sitting around. The AT-8 is not happy. He's been complaining about getting tracked and nobody helping him. But you know, you pushed into the south. You pushed into the south with a sniping KV-2. I'm not really sure what kind of support you're expecting when you do things like that, but there you go. They won, all right? Mea culpa, whatever. Guido's wrong. They won, sort of. Actually, they're losing now. But they've certainly kept a good number of the enemy busy. I haven't talked about counting noses. A few moments ago, I meant to discuss the fact that the ARL was seen way to the south and wasn't a factor. And that was part of my calculus for going up the hill because you knew he wasn't there. It was just the Churchill. This is the part of the game I talked about at the beginning where you become much, much more effective based on the kind of tank you are, carrying your camo while you move, being relatively small anyway in the case of this, and having good spotting, but also using the binocs. So we come up here and we find the Churchill. And actually, it was you that found him, okay. We sneak a shot there. I don't know if I'd have done that. Again, we're in the part of the game where we want to be moving as much as possible. Except when we don't. We're going to talk about that. Once we came up there and got lit, we needed to bail out right and get away. Because we don't want the M44 and the Hummel to be able to spin and have any kind of decent shot on us. We want to spot him and go. Because he's going to see you spot him and then he's going to see you go and he's going to go, crap, I don't know where this guy went. Right here, you're just begging for them to get a shot. And instead of just bailing out, we back up. I mean, we're stationary for a bit. All right, now we've gone dark, or we should be pretty soon. He's gone dark. Now we need to work this approach. And we know he's below these bushes right here. There's a line of bushes. There's a small line. Let's see if we can get a little closer. There's a great small line of bushes right there. And then there's some trees next to it, which not quite as good. But these bushes, if you put your gun line like this, you can see that as we get to here, that's the approach to this guy. Now, we want to be careful about proxy lighting, but I'd have just snuck up along this ridge and just take a quick peek and see if I can't see him. Right? Now is the time to start thinking about go slower. Because if I can pinpoint him without getting lit, the Artie can have a field day on this guy. I don't quite have my support, although the Sturv looks like he's up there ready to shoot now. My KV-85 is on his way, but I do have some fire support from this guy. I definitely have the Artie. But what we do is we just kind of rage in like this. And then we inexplicably come around to get lit. There was no reason to get lit. This thing has, look at that. Oh, if you come right behind that bush, I think just top over the ridge, make sure you didn't get lit by him, right? And then once you don't get lit, just creep forward until you light this guy out in the open behind that bush, and it is all over for this poor dude. I mean, it is absolutely all over. More than likely, you could switch to APCR, back up to the bushes solid, and pummel the dude with your own shots. Now he gets hit. All right, same approach. Do it again. Get right behind that bush. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. All right, so that's what I'm saying. There's the time to be active, and there's the time to be active passive. By active passive, I mean getting forward to light the last guys, and helping people pick apart the dudes on the edge of the enemy formation, right? This guy's on the edge. The two Artie are down there, but the KV-2 is way out of position. Unfortunately, you just put yourself in between everything. So now everything has a shot at you. Sometimes the light tank rage through the middle of everything is a good idea, but But you don't have to do it right here. You could have actually picked apart this Churchill and then found the rest of them. And then, I don't know, I'm going to be honest, it's inexplicable to me. We're just driving. Go after these guys. Auto aim if we're going to do that. Oh boy, guy tracked us and boom, blap. This ends up being a win. You've got 1,500 assists, 655 damage. So not a bad game overall. But I think the things I'm seeing here are your approach lines. You need to think more about how to approach things unspotted. That's the best thing about a scout. Being able to approach things unspotted and get them lit without also getting lit. Sometimes you just have to rage through. But there were multiple opportunities on this one to approach the bushes at a different angle, to come in there unlit and take a look. And then bail out of it if you don't see anything. Or if something sees you, bail out. But you gave way too many easy sight lines to people. And they should have been easily known sight lines based on how common those positions are and where you got SA from. I.e., the Type 64 shooting you from a direction, you get your direction indicator. Now, I don't know if you have that set up. You should. I talk about that a lot. It's the shot indicator that has the line. That's the one you want, the line that comes out, so you can line up your gun line and know exactly the direction from which that shot came from. People will also use that for blind shooting. You get a shot from a specific direction, you know that bush is there, or you can see the elevation that he probably is on, and you can take that shot. It's a bit of a sidebar there. So your approaches, your sight lines, paying attention to that, and then being a little bit more careful about whether I'm active or passive. And towards the end of the game, the active-passive of chewing up the guys on the edges. The Churchill 7 was completely out of position. You could have easily got in there and found that guy, lit him up, let the Arty have a heyday, and maybe even finish him off with your APCR with some carefully aimed shots in there. Think about auto aim a little bit more. I didn't see you use it here. If you were trying to, it didn't look like it was working, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Looks like you're doing the shift zoom thing, which is fine. But there were a couple opportunities, I think, for a more zoomed in shot, so you could get a little bit better of a shot right there. Prioritization of the kills as far as taking out near deads, things like the Cromwell with less hit points. I would prioritize things like that because he's more likely to machine gun you down, although the M6 does have a decent rate of fire there as well, and the 131 does too. So lots of little things, I think, to take into account there. You definitely could have done that better at the end, but it was a good game, and you helped your team get to the win. The nice thing is you weren't sitting in a bush, hanging out in the back, doing nothing, so that was fantastic. All right, man, thanks for sending that in. I hope that helped you out. I hope everybody else liked it and learned something. If you did, throw me a follow, and that's all I've got for today. We will see you.